Stop, lift your face and look at your life before you pretend this is not about you. You keep saving people who keep choosing the same mistake, then wonder why you feel drained and quietly resentful. Every time you rescue them, you tell them without words that you are beneath their consequences. You downgrade your position and absorb damage that was never meant for you. Saving someone who is drowning looks noble until they climb your body to breathe and drag you under without hesitation. Desperation does not recognize sacrifice. Pulling someone from a deep pit seems brave until they grab your throat and use you as a ladder, sending both of you down. This is how help works in real life. You have seen this pattern at work. Someone ignores instructions, misses deadlines, panics, then reaches for you to fix everything before consequences arrive. You see it in relationships. The partner repeats the same behavior, apologizes perfectly, then does it again, expecting you to absorb the fallout. This is not confusion, this is selection. They chose the mistake, they chose the outcome. And when you interfere, you announce something dangerous about yourself. You exist to buffer consequences, not command respect. Not every mistake deserves distance, but every repeated mistake reveals intent. Most mistakes happen once. Chosen errors happen endlessly because someone else keeps paying the price. That someone has been you. Pain creates memory, advice creates noise. Psychology settled this long ago. Behavior only changes after consequences are felt directly. Until then, behavior stays exactly where it is. That is why they never change. That is why your advice rots in the air. You tell yourself you are helping, but you are absorbing consequences meant to correct them. You delay the lesson and carry the cost. You carry deadlines for co-workers who never learn. You carry emotional weight for partners who repeat betrayal without fear. You carry consequences for friends who refuse discipline. And every time you intervene, you teach them a silent lesson. Your pain is cheaper than their growth. And once someone learns that, they stop changing and start leaning on you. Machiavelli warned without mercy, men change only when necessity forces them. When you remove necessity, you remove leverage. When you save them, you teach them they do not need discipline, foresight, or restraint. They only need you. Saving people does not make you noble. It exposes you as controllable, safe to fail around, reliable to absorb damage. You call it kindness. Reality calls it submission. Those who feel protected from consequences feel superior to the protector. This video strips away the instinct to rescue and replaces it with something colder and more effective: restraint. Restraint restores hierarchy, control, and psychological distance you lost the moment you confused help with power. By the end, you will stop rushing to save people because you will understand something irreversible. Every time you block consequences, you volunteer to be controlled. You trade authority for approval. Here is the reality most avoid. When you save someone from a mistake they chose, you do not help them. You reposition yourself beneath them. Power does not come from fixing outcomes. Power comes from allowing consequences to teach. Reality is the most efficient instructor there is. Watch this play out. The person who borrows money and never changes habits is not unlucky. The employee who ignores feedback and expects coverage is not confused. They are insulated. The friend who repeats self-sabotage and calls it bad luck is protected from cost. They are insulated by you. And every time you step in, you send a silent signal. Their choices carry no weight because your energy exists to protect them from reality. That is not loyalty, that is submission. Machiavelli warned about this mistake structurally, not morally. Authority collapses when consequences are outsourced. A system survives only when actions carry cost. Remove the cost and behavior begins to rot. This is why people repeat patterns you already warned them about. They are not stupid, they are comfortable. Comfort grows where consequences are delayed. And when you delay them, people learn to lean instead of stand. That is how resentment is born. You feel drained, irritated, quietly angry, without knowing why. Not because they failed, but because you carried something that was never yours to hold. Here is the rule. If someone chooses a path after warnings and clarity, the outcome belongs to them. The moment you accept their consequences, you lose leverage, respect, and position. This is not cruelty. This is boundaries that preserve power. Once you understand this, you stop asking why people keep draining you. You already know. Here is the shift most men are not prepared for. When you stop saving people, pressure does not vanish. It turns toward you. The system destabilizes and looks for the pillar that held it together. This is where most fail. They mistake urgency for responsibility and panic for obligation. Watch the reaction. The dependent person does not reflect. They escalate. They push urgency. They frame everything as an emergency. They imply your distance is abandonment. This is not confusion. This is withdrawal. You removed insulation, and now they feel exposed. So they reach for the fastest way to restore comfort. Your reaction, here is the trap. If you step in now, you confirm dependency. If you explain yourself now, you reassign authority back to them. If you justify your distance, you teach them how to pull you back next time. This is why silence matters most after the pattern breaks, not before. Machiavelli understood this precisely. Men do not test limits when limits are enforced loudly. They test limits when restraint appears. Whoever moves first reveals weakness. By staying still, you force the system to correct itself without your interference. By reacting, you restore the old hierarchy where you absorb and they choose. Notice what happens internally. Discomfort spikes. Guilt surfaces. The urge to fix appears. That urge is not compassion. It is conditioning. You were trained to associate movement with responsibility and stillness with danger. Yet stillness is the only position that returns ownership to where it belongs. This is why restraint feels unnatural at first. Not because it is wrong, but because it threatens a role you held too long. Once consequences land without you cushioning them, one of two things happens. The person adapts, or the pattern collapses. Both outcomes restore order. Neither outcome requires your sacrifice. Power reasserts itself quietly here. Not through confrontation, not through explanation, through absence of rescue. When you stop absorbing consequences, people must negotiate with reality instead of negotiating with you. The moment that happens, your position rises automatically. You are no longer a resource to be drained. You become a boundary. A boundary cannot be bypassed. It can only be respected or avoided. This is the point of no return. Once seen, this structure cannot be unseen. You begin to notice how much power you handed away by confusing intervention with strength. You told yourself you were humane, balanced, emotionally intelligent. But beneath that language sits a motive you avoided confronting. The need to be perceived as good, dependable, indispensable. Being needed felt safer than being respected when you did not trust your position. This is where the weakness hides. You did not intervene because the situation demanded it. You intervened because your image demanded it. You feared the silence that follows restraint, the gap where judgment appears. You feared being seen as cold, detached, or selfish, so you moved to protect perception instead of structure. In doing so, you traded leverage for approval. That trade always ends the same way. Once people learn your self-image requires you to step in, they stop managing themselves. They start managing you. They calibrate apologies, time remorse, and perform accountability just long enough. Nothing changes because nothing has to. This is why apologies feel hollow. This is why promises expire quickly. This is why behavior resets when pressure lifts. Machiavelli warned against mercy without limits because it dissolves discipline. When discipline dissolves, authority becomes cosmetic, visible but ineffective. People stop responding to structure and start responding to loopholes. Look closely at the pattern you tolerated. They apologize after damage. They promise change after cost is absorbed. They repeat behavior once stability returns. This is not emotional confusion. This is learned negotiation. You became the negotiable element in the system. The one who could be softened, persuaded, worn down. Once outcomes are adjustable through you, fear disappears. Words lose power when consequences are absent. Warnings without cost become noise. Boundaries without enforcement become suggestions. Here is the rule that ends the illusion. Respect forms only where crossing a line carries real weight. Remove that weight and self-regulation collapses. When self-regulation collapses, dependency replaces it. This is why powerful individuals are not endlessly available. Not because they lack care, but because they understand incentives. They help selectively. They intervene deliberately. They refuse to rescue people from decisions made with awareness. They allow outcomes to burn lessons into memory. Experience imprints where explanation evaporates. Once you internalize this, your behavior changes automatically. You stop confusing compassion with interference. You stop mistaking being needed for being in control. Ask yourself without lying, who are you constantly rescuing? Who do you bail out emotionally, financially, psychologically? Who repeats choices and expects the same safety net? And what do you get from saving them? There is always a trade. Sometimes it is control, sometimes relevance, sometimes avoiding your own discomfort. Every time you step in, you delay the lesson meant to correct them. Every time you soften the landing, you weaken the impact. Every time you carry consequences that are not yours, you teach dependence. Dependence destroys respect. It always does. Machiavelli warned that leaders who absorb disorder eventually collapse under it. Systems rot when consequences are suspended. The same rule governs people. Those who never feel weight never develop judgment. Those constantly rescued never learn restraint. Those protected from reality never grow teeth. Eventually they turn on the rescuer. They resent the mirror you hold up. They test boundaries and demand more. This is the final cost of playing savior. You do not create loyalty, you create entitlement. Entitlement always expands until it consumes the source. The law is simple and unforgiving. Do not intervene in mistakes chosen with full awareness. Do not interrupt consequences meant to teach. Do not steal reality's role and expect peace. Step back, let the outcome land. Allow experience to do what advice never could. This is not cruelty, this is structure. Structure separates power from exhaustion. When you stop rescuing, people either rise or disappear. Both outcomes are correct. This is Machiavelli's law of consequences. Respect it and your energy stops leaking. You stop being dragged into chaos that was never yours. You stop absorbing damage meant for other people's choices. You stop confusing mercy with weakness. You become someone reality works with, not against. Now understand what really happens when you stop interfering. Silence creates pressure. Absence creates friction. Friction forces truth to surface without your involvement. When you no longer save people, they face themselves directly. No buffer, no soft landing, no one left to blame. This is where power actually shifts. Some people panic when the safety net disappears. They accuse you of changing, becoming cold or selfish. That reaction is proof of what they were attached to. They were not attached to you. They were attached to the protection you provided. Dependence only looks like loyalty until pressure arrives. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Dependence reveals itself when insulation is removed. Only then does reality expose intent. When you stop absorbing consequences, your presence gains weight. Your words become scarce. Your approval becomes rare. Your attention is no longer automatic. Scarcity is not cruelty. Scarcity is structure. People calculate around you instead of leaning on you. They think before acting because cleanup is no longer guaranteed. This is how authority forms without force. You do not lecture, you do not threaten. You let reality speak. Reality is harsher than anything you could say. Most will never thank you for this. Growth feels like loss before it feels like strength. The ones who survive this shift respect you permanently. The ones who don't were never meant to remain. This is the final separation. Rescuers stay entangled forever. Leaders step back and let the system correct itself. Once you internalize this law, your life simplifies. You stop being drained by problems that are not yours. You stop being needed for the wrong reasons. You stop carrying weight you never agreed to hold. You become someone others must stand on their own around. That is the cleanest form of power there is. Not domination, not control. Irrelevance to other people's chaos. That is Machiavelli's law applied correctly. Once you obey it, your energy stops leaking. You are no longer pulled downward by others' choices. You stand where consequences end. You stop arguing with reality. You stop rescuing those determined to repeat mistakes. You stop confusing compassion with obligation. You recognize a truth most people avoid. Some lessons arrive only through loss. Some growth comes only through consequence. The moment you interfere, you interrupt the only force strong enough to change them. Machiavelli never believed misplaced power was noble. He believed misplaced power was dangerous. When you remove consequences, you do not save people. You train them to depend on you while resenting you. This is why rescuers are rarely respected. They are drained, blamed, and eventually discarded. The man who lets consequence stand is different. He is not cruel, he is clear. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. Only those who can stand alone are allowed close. Discomfort is the signal a boundary must be rebuilt. If this made you uncomfortable, that reaction matters. Discomfort signals a truth you were avoiding. If this clarified something you felt but couldn't name, acknowledge it. Say it plainly and lock it in. I don't absorb other people's consequences. That sentence alone rewires how you move. If you want more content like this, understand the difference. This is not motivation. This is not comfort. These are rules that change how power works in real life. Subscribe if you want structure, restraint, and authority. Share this with someone who saves everyone and feels exhausted. Sometimes the most helpful action is stepping back. Let reality do its job without interference. That is the law. Live by it and your energy stops leaking. You do not need to control anyone. You only need to stop carrying what was never yours.